So good morning and welcome to the UU Fellowship of Beaufort virtual worship service here on April 5th of 2020. Can you all hear me? Okay, good. We are glad that you are here this morning, however you got here, by iPad or laptop or desktop or telephone, whatever it is that brought you to this community, whatever paths you have traveled, whoever you love, whatever your immigration status or ethnicity, know that you will find safe harbor at UU Fellowship of Beaufort. For we celebrate the free and responsible search for truth and meaning, and guided by love, we work to create the beloved community of justice, compassion, and peace. And at this time, I invite you to join me, as you are willing, in affirming the fellowship's mission statement. Our mission is to create a joyful sanctuary for spiritual and intellectual growth, embracing all souls in a nurturing community from which we go forth as activists for social justice and as stewards of the natural world. Our call to worship this morning is from Daniel Cantor. Today we begin the walk to Jerusalem, the Holy Week, the demand that we face the darkness, the broken path, the abuse of power. Today we walk toward the dayspring breaking through, the Easter day of joy. So let us prepare the way. Let us join this morning in worship to see what holiness resides within and about us, to welcome in the day and make straight the path for the work of love in the world. Come, let us worship together. And I invite Tom to come light our chalice. Light our chalice, the lamp of our heritage, marking this time together as sacred. There we go. Thank you. I have a story for all ages this morning. It is a story, it's a traditional Indian tale, although I heard a version of it first as a Buddhist Jataka tale. It's called Great Joy, the Prince and the Rhinoceros. Once upon a time in India, a rare rhinoceros was born, with skin so beautiful it almost glowed. The rhinoceros was given to a noble prince who was very lonely and whose kingdom was poor. The prince was so delighted that he laughed joyfully and named the rhinoceros Great Joy. Now the prince treated her with great kindness. He fed her rice and fruit and choice tender plants, and he spoke always in a kind and gentle voice. Great Joy grew and was very happy. At sunrise, she would appear golden. At sunset, she would be a canvas of pink and red and orange, and later the dark blue of the evening. She seemed almost enchanted. You are so wonderful and special to me, the prince would whisper softly to Great Joy. But in time, Great Joy grew into an enormous rhino. She was very, very strong. And one day she said, "You know, I am only a rhino, but I can use my strength to help my prince earn gold for his kingdom." And she suggested to the prince that she compete in a contest of strength against the town's strongest bulls. Well, a rich merchant with many fine oxen agreed to the wager. Great Joy would pull 100 loaded wagons, usually towed by his team of 8 oxen. The bet was 1,000 gold pieces. The next day, the prince inspected the wagons and he harnessed Great Joy to the front. Then he climbed into the driver's seat, and Great Joy waited for a few kind words before starting. Instead, the prince waved a whip in the air and shouted, "Pull, you big wretch! Move, you worthless rhino!" Great Joy was shocked. Wretch? Worthless? I'm no wretch, she thought. I'm not worthless either. And she stiffened her huge legs and refused to move an inch. Humiliated, the prince ran home and hid in his royal bed. I'm ruined, he cried. Well, Great Joy was filled with pain and sorrow also. After many days and nights without food or sleep, she went to the prince's palace. Oh, Prince, in all our years together, have I ever done anything to hurt you? No, never, he replied. Then why did you say those terrible things to me? The prince hung his head and tears ran down his face. The gold distracted me. I forgot the importance of our friendship. I am so ashamed and so sorry. Then we can try again, Great Joy said. Go back to the merchant and double the bet. So again the carts were loaded, and again the prince climbed up, but this time he sang out, "Oh, you marvelous marvel, you splendid rhino, my Great Joy, it's all up to you." And the powerful rhino snorted and pawed the ground and charged forward. Her sides heaved as she pulled until the last cart crossed the finish line as the townspeople cheered wildly. The prince collected 2,000 pieces of gold, then humbly thanked Great Joy. And that evening, the prince and the rhino walked along the river at sunset. I never meant to say such hurtful words to you, said the prince. Please forgive me. I already have, said Great Joy. And that's how they lived forever after. But this is the end of our story for today. But I hope that you will carry its seeds of wisdom in your heart and in your life as you go forward. And now I invite you to join your hearts and minds with mine in a spirit of prayer and meditation with these words from my friend Chip Rausch. For those struggling to live under the restrictions due to the COVID-19 panic, we see you. For those who are frankly enjoying their time apart, we see you. For those appreciating the solitude, relishing the time to read, to tidy up, to finish up long-running projects, for those blissfully engaged in the soil of their gardens, we see you. For those who miss their loved ones, we see you. For those who are enjoying more time with some of their loved ones, we see you. For those who crave just a little time away from some of their loved ones, we see you. For those who are bored stiff, for those taking many more walks than usual, we see you. For those who are discovering a deeper self, now that there is less busyness and distraction, we see you. For those already accustomed to quarantine or isolation or extensive medical precautions because of pre-existing medical conditions, we see you. For those who cannot visit their sick loved ones, those who cannot celebrate a religious holiday such as Passover or Palm Sunday in the way they usually do, those who have postponed a wedding, a graduation, a memorial service, we see you. For those who are working even harder for even longer hours, we see you and thank you. For medical personnel, certainly, and grocery staff, and maintenance workers, and postal carriers, drive-through food deliverers, bank tellers, trash collectors, and many more. We see you and we thank you. For those who own a small business who are wondering how they can sustain it, we see you. For those attempting to feed and comfort, wrangle, and perhaps even educate children, we see you. For those already shunned or microaggressed because they appear to have Asian ancestry, we see you. For those saddened or enraged at how, again, Black and brown communities are disproportionately harmed through human inaction and deliberate mishandling of this crisis, we see you. For those attempting to profit from this situation, and for those seeking to increase or consolidate their own power, well, we see you too. For those who have never had more than a few days' worth of food in the house, for those watching the food pantry shelves get emptier and emptier, we see you. For those who are now quarantined in a small space with their abuser, we see you. For those imprisoned or detained, and for all those who love them, we see you. For those who have already thought they knew somebody with the virus, and that near miss was frightening enough, for those who do know someone with the virus, we see you. For those who have been diagnosed with the virus, we see you and we send support. For those who have already lost a loved one to this pandemic and its mismanagement, we see you and grieve with you. For those who just want a hug from somebody, we see you and we send you a regrettably unsatisfying virtual hug with a promise for a real one someday. For those of us, all of us, who are part of the interconnected web of all existence, may we draw strength from those connections. May we furnish resilience to the connections around us. And may we truly feel the spirit of life evolving through and among us. So may it be. Blessed be, and amen. I have one reading this morning. It is by Gretchen Haley and titled Palm Sunday Poem. All you can do is walk into Jerusalem with the hosannas ringing in your ears and the palms coming at you from every direction when you're already remembering the bitter of what comes next. Even then, all you have is the moving forward into the city and the call that says, you've been preparing for this your whole life. That every good thing will come undone does not make it all make-believe. And when the world turns upside down and lovers become strangers and thieves and betrayers turn out to be the beloved beside you in the dark, even when the palms turn to passion, even then, you can still throw your arms wide, open wide, and turn forgiveness over and over on your tongue until it just falls out and you find yourself empty of everything for a moment. Until the breath begins again, the rise and the fall, and the next morning comes gloriously steady with life. Here ends our reading. All you can do is walk into Jerusalem. This is the penultimate Sunday in what is arguably the holiest time of the year for most Christians. Back on Ash Wednesday, the beginning of Lent, is when it began. It's a time of sacrifice for many, though in recent years, some progressive Christians have offered alternatives. The UU Christian Fellowship has offered a word of the day and ask you use to post photos that illustrate the word to them on Facebook or Instagram or wherever else one posts on social media. And instead of giving something up, others have taken something on, some project for charity or some series of good deeds for neighbors and family. This year, well, we all know that this year has turned out rather differently. You can still post a photo on Facebook timeline or Instagram explaining how the photo of a battered old teddy means love to you, or how twined vines illustrate connection. But taking on a project that requires one to go out into the world where other people are, that's become problematic. It's safer to be inside, to shun any human contact from a distance closer than 6 feet, or even sometimes contact with packages that are dropped on the porch. Did Jesus, when he was walking into Jerusalem, know what would happen? Did he know it would all go terribly wrong, that one of his close circle would betray him for a few lousy coins, and another deny even knowing him? Did he know that he'd be arrested and beaten and, well, I'm getting ahead of the story there. It's true we can't really get to Easter without going through Good Friday, but we're not there yet. The point is that even knowing what's coming, or kind of knowing, because even with the models and projections, we cannot know how bad it's going to be or how much we've flattened the curve. All we can do is keep moving forward, keep living, and keep preparing. Even when the pessimistic, cynical, fearful voices in our minds whisper that the mask you're wearing isn't the good kind, even when it turns out that person your best friend introduced you to a week ago tested positive for the virus, even when you remember that you forgot to wash your hands that one time, even, maybe especially when you can't sleep for thinking about your vulnerable parents, your children, your partner, the people who were your clients in your former practice, your dear friends, your neighbors, and all those already lost to this pandemic, especially then. You and I, we are alive today. We have this one perfect present moment, which, as the Buddha and Thich Nhat Hanh have reminded us, is all we're ever guaranteed. So we can breathe into this moment, and the next, and the next. A transformational life coach, I don't know what that means exactly, named Samira Zahir posted this on her website, which has gained some traction as a meme on social media. As you can see, on the left is what I call the panic mind's thought, and on the right is what we need to shift to, from I'm stuck at home to I get to be safe at home, and so forth. The last shift, though, is really the key, because although there is too much uncertainty, there really is always uncertainty. And we humans, we don't do well with uncertainty. One of the truly unique features of being human is our ability to reflect upon what we know and what we don't know. And when we don't know what's coming, that's when our anxiety really ramps up. A friend of mine pointed me toward an article from The Atlantic from 5 years ago. And a quote, one single quote from there reminds us that studies have shown that people would rather definitely get an electric shock now than maybe be shocked later. Think about that. If someone said to you, would you rather get an electric shock now or maybe get one later? More people would choose to get one now. And that people show greater nervous system activation when waiting for an unpredictable shock or other unpleasant stimulus than an expected one. Where people differ is in the degree to which uncertainty bothers them. Well, all we can really do is this. We can prepare as best we can. We can order our groceries to be delivered. We can make do with what we have. We can make masks or order them. We can think through a few scenarios that are more likely and do our best to prepare for those. And I want to remind you of the suggestion that I made in my newsletter column to kind of make an email that's ready to be sent if you get sick. We can also choose how we respond. We can choose fear, we can choose learning, and we can choose growth. And ultimately, like Elsa, we have to let it go. And knowing that we have done the best we can. I bet even Jesus, who prepared his disciples for what was coming as best he could, he had to let it go. Because I think he had to know that the 12 he'd chosen would fumble and bumble and make mistakes and not get it right. Not get it right the first time or the 10th time, or maybe even the 100th time they tried to tell the story. But as the poets remind us, it's in the letting go. It's in the letting go that we can open ourselves up to the enjoyment of this breath, this moment, and the next, and the next. Through this day, through this night, and into the days to come. May it be so. And here are our words for closing, adapted from Dory Midnight. In the middle of the night, when you wake up with terror in your belly, it is time to think about stardust and geological time, redwoods and dance parties and mushrooms remediating toxic soil. It is time to care for one another, to pray over water, and to wash away fear every time we wash our hands. And now we'll extinguish our chalice. And please join me in our chalice extinguishing words, which I hope you see on your screen. The chalice flame is extinguished until once again ignited by the strength of our gathering in community with a mission for justice and our hearts full of love.